right, let's go.
All right. So how you doing? Like,
Yeah.
how you? I'm good. Yo, we be having these little what are they called? Like voice messages. Like
Yeah.
they're not voice
Well,
to
like
text,
on
but
WhatsApp is voice notes. I guess the same thing on
yeah,
iMessage. Who knows now?
I don't I don't know, but yeah, like your voice is so like calming and just relaxing and like very nurturing. So I was like, oh my gosh, this woman.
Thank
I was
you.
like, who is she?
It really silly. Well, thank you.
Yes, anytime, anytime. So, what I tell everyone is that this is just the podcast itself is meant to show representation or give representation to people who look like us, who relate to us, both male, female, whoever. Because the sport of volleyball, we know because we've been in the community, we know how it runs and just when you're hanging around other volleyball players, how it feels. Y'all just have your own little group, and
Yeah.
it's like y'all against the world. And so I want more people, more melanated folks, more black and brown people, minorities to really buy into that feeling because realistically, to me, it's very similar to Black love, and just how we run on a day to day basis. So at least that's my experience. Do you get the same experience, like being in Trinidad? Like, how's the Trinidad volleyball scene?
Yeah. So the fact that you said scene was kind of cool because that's one of like that's how we speak down here. But
Okay.
the dynamic is definitely different because we're Afro-Caribbean. Like the population is mainly black. It's like 50-50 in terms of 50% Afro-Caribbean, 50 in the Caribbean, but we don't really have the dynamic of being outnumbered. If anything, we're actually the majority when it comes to sports and that sort of activity. So inclusivity isn't really an issue that we battle with down here as it pertains to sports, but I do understand that the dynamic in the US is completely different. So, but I am like happy to be able to speak in this space and just share my experience so that those who are in a situation where they feel like they're in the minority can look at someone that looks like them and feel
Hmm.
connected. So,
Yeah, I mean, and it's even still like you've played for your national team, and
mhm.
so you have experience going places and like for example, at least you can relate to being from one place, like you said, just being the majority and being around your people, and
Mhm.
then being in another culture and going and interjecting yourself in with, a different language being spoken, or, now being the minority, not now, but when you go places and when you play
Yeah,
professionally. So, you
yes.
could definitely relate to that.
Yes, 100%. That's usually the case. Like in many situations, I'm like one out of two, maximum three black girls on
Mm,
the team. So, and the team is comprised between 12 to 14 players. So, yeah, I definitely can relate to being in a situation where I am the minority and having to like deal with those different nuances and, feel like you should fit in, but also still stay true to who you are and just bring what you have to the table. So, I can relate to that sort of experience.
yeah. And where have you played? Like, because you done played a few places.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I started, I was actually 15 years old when I started playing professional volleyball. When I completed high school, and the first the first
I
place,
was
we,
not 15, sis. I was like, I
no, so
didn't have
I
my
actually did.
learner's permit yet to drive.
Yeah, I know. My mom came with me, and I was with another teammate from Trinidad and Tobago. So I was not 100% like by myself, but it was
Mhm.
still, a young Caribbean girl leaving the islands and the beaches to go to Poland, which is extremely cool. So Poland was the first country that I played in, and since then I've played in Russia, France, Turkey, Germany, Indonesia. No, I lied, not Indonesia. The Philippines. I'm forgetting
Mm.
somewhere. I have to like count it. Russia, Turkey, France, Germany, Hungary, Philippines. Yeah, I think that's all.
So
Those are countries that I've lived in. This is not like playing with the national team, going for like 2 weeks and back. So
so this is like your career wise, like professional career,
this is
not
my
just
bread and
like
butter. My bread and
yes.
butter.
Okay, so Q, do you remember that cartoon Carmen San Diego? Did you ever have that? Did you ever
Did
have
I
that?
have one? Sorry.
Like Carmen San Diego, the cartoon?
I remember we had a game that was called Where in the World is Carmen San Diego, but it was when I was young. I don't even remember the details of the game. I just remember she used to travel the world. There was like this globe that was spinning on the computer screen, and it's a very vague memory of that game, but it is
Yes,
yeah.
very much you. With the red hat and the red coat, like hair all blowing in the wind. Where in the world is Shannon the Cannon? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like that when I'm talking to my friends, and they're like, "So where are you now?" And it's funny because of it. This is actually these past years has been the longest that I've been home. So when I get messages like, "Okay, so where in the world are you now?" I'm like, "I'm actually right in Trinidad. I'm right here." But yeah,
I asked you the same thing. I was like, so, like, where you been? Like, you were like, I've been here.
I've been here. Yeah, I've been here for like since March or April. I think it was
Okay.
April of 2020. Yeah.
Oh, so like right when pandemic shut it down, you've been home since then.
Yeah, basically.
Okay. Okay.
It's just, yeah, I mean, when I say yeah, because I'm like, how much do we want to unpack at the beginning? Because I was actually in Hungary for the second, for like round two of the pandemic, because, like, we've been tussling with this pandemic. But so round two, pandemic part two, I was in Hungary. Pandemic part one, I was in Germany. But both times when I was trying to come home, I was actually stuck outside the country because since we're a very small island, like the government tries to do as much as possible to mitigate the spread, and so they actually close the borders for an extended period of time to both nationals and non-nationals. So I couldn't even go home to my own country. So when I got
Mm.
injured and lost my contract, and they basically cut me from the team and said, "Okay, so you can go home." I'm like, about that? I can't really just go home because I need like permission. So I had to send in an application, wait for them to approve me, and then get like a special flight. Like everything was just really
Oh,
complicated. Yeah, they weren't running flights in and out of the country. It was very sporadic. Yeah, they had it in intervals. Like they would control which planes could fly in and out, when those flights would come in. So it was such a process, but eventually I did make it home.
but you made it, sis. That's one of my things for this year. I'm like, I want to, because I travel. Like, okay, so I feel like I've been pretty much everywhere in the USA,
Okay.
but I'm like, I want to coach overseas. Like, I want to go be fresh face, like
Mm.
learn a new language, and just I find that so fulfilling when you just humble yourself and put yourself in somebody else's culture and you go eat their
Yeah.
food and they speak their language.
Yeah.
And so I was like, one of the places I really want to go is Ireland. I don't know why. I have
Okay.
just always had a fascination with Ireland.
Okay.
So I was like, I'm gonna go to Ireland this year and I'm gonna coach. And I'm gonna do it for my birthday, which is in March. And then
March what?
March 9th.
I'll be 29.
Yeah.
That's cool.
All the good people are born in March. I don't know. Sorry about everybody else, but
I mean, you can't sit with us, but
I mean, I don't want to be envious. The Bible says, "Do not envy your neighbor." But if you feel some kind of way, I get it. So,
I get
I,
it.
it is what it is. Um, I want to go, but then I'm so afraid of like, okay, well, what if I get over there? Not even if it's Ireland, just any country, and then they're just like, nope, borders closed, and I'm be like, well, huh.
Yeah. I mean, it's always a risk that you take. Um,
Hmm.
especially when they're like acts of God. It's like an actual term that's now included in contracts where it can be terminated based on acts of God. It's affect the environment where like a world crisis or something, and it's interesting to see it. To see us actually living in an institution like that. It is a risk that you take when you leave your country, but I always think of like taking risk as something where you have to analyze, okay, if there's, I mean, there is a fear of all the bad things that can happen, but what do you fear more? The bad things that can happen, or do you fear never even trying, never even taking that leap? Like, can you live with the consequences of regrets? That feeling, I am afraid of that more. Like, so.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, I mean, when they say it's better to have tried and failed than to fail to try, the experience that you get from failing and from not having accomplished whatever it is you set out to do, that experience is so character building, just in any element of life, that it literally makes you who you are. You become so much stronger, so much more resilient. So I don't know if that encourages you to just take the leap if you do have the opportunity to do so, but we have one life. And especially now in this pandemic, we're seeing that people are dropping like flies, and it's so sobering to know that it could be you in any minute. It literally can be you. And, I just think we should all be living life to the fullest. You only get one shot at it,
Yeah, I love that. I was just talking about that last night. It's just, I want to, like, I'm happy for myself. Like, I feel like I've done great so far in 2022. I'm like, okay, we're on our stuff.
Yeah.
But so I was like, yeah, children might listen to this. Try to keep it to a minimum, Maurice, because this vocabulary be real colorful, as you could tell. And but I was like, I want to say yes more. Like, that's something I do know. Because my first thing is like, for example, when somebody asks you like, hey, do you want to go to this function? And my first thing is, okay, yeah, I want to go, but who's there? What time we going? How we getting there? How long we getting there? And I'm like, that's so many questions. So it's like, just go. If it ain't your gig, then you can leave.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that serious. So just saying yes more. So that does help out a lot. What you just said. What does, because I'll be trying to ask Kendry this as well, or I don't know if I did ask her if we've actually had to, she did a little bit, but what does growing up in Trinidad and playing volleyball, like, what does that even look like on a day-to-day basis for you?
For me, okay. So let's talk about what that looks like when I was in high school, because I feel like the dynamic was much different, because a lot has changed in the volleyball community between then and now. So when I was in high school, when I first started, so okay, backstory, I used to swim before I was introduced to volleyball. I have three sisters, and my mom had a friend who had a volleyball club. And he knew that she had, young, tall girls, and he was like, okay, anytime you see young, tall, athletic, let's just get them signed up.
Let's go.
So all of us started, and I remember I was the only person who loved it. I literally called it, as cheesy as it sounds, it was love at first spike. Really, like when I first had that experience playing, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun, and I just wanted to keep going and going. And my other sisters, they were like, no, we really like it, and so I was the only one who stuck with it. I mean, now I'm a professional athlete. From time to time, they're like, you know what if I stuck with it? I could probably have been like you. I'm like, yeah, you could have, but Anyway, so at that time I was still in school, and it was school training, and it would be when I was at the club level, I think it was like 3 times a week. And then the club was going to close down, but Mr. Terrence Honorary, who's the guy who got me into it, he didn't want to just like leave me without these sports at all. So he was able to speak with the national team coach and just get him to agree to have me train with the national team. So the coach, he was a Cuban coach. The head coach of our national team was Cuban. And when he saw me at first, he was like, she's too short. But he never disclosed this to me until
Okay.
years after. But I'll tell you everything that he actually said when he first saw me. And but he allowed me to train, and what that looked like was training in the morning. No, yeah, no. When I was in high school, we had school. It was school from 8 to 2:30, and then I had to meet a bus for 3:30. That's the time that we left to go to training. We arrived at training at 5 o'clock. We trained from 5 to 9, and then got back home. I got back home around 10:30, sometimes 11, depending on if training went over time or if we just took long to leave. It was just such a long schedule, and we would do that 6 days a week. We had Sundays off. Thinking back on that now, I have no idea how I did it.
Right. I'm like,
4 hours of training plus school plus homework. So homework was done on the bus. We slept on the bus. Just we had to find different pockets of productivity in order to still stay, on top of things with school and balance, your sport performance. Because at that time, there were like 18 girls in the program, all fighting for 12 spots on a team to go to represent the national team. So that's what my life looked like for a long time. Within recent years, as the program has continued, without, I would say, getting younger athletes into the sport. Unfortunately, many of the senior players, when they transitioned to other areas of their life and no longer played volleyball, there wasn't enough girls to continue that program. So the numbers have surely dwindled. Um, Unfortunately, even as it pertains to the head coach, like he's no longer with us. The program is not as strong as it used to be. It's really sad to see, where volleyball was and how we qualified for world championships in Japan in 2018 and just was able to achieve so many milestones as like 10-time Caribbean champion, sorry, in the Caribbean area. And then just to see where we are now. But generally, for any young girl who wants to play volleyball, usually we encourage them to enter at the club level. And then from there, when they have club tournaments, of course, the national team coach is there, and from there you get invited to come train with the national team, and from there, you fight for your spots essentially. That is the ideal way. That is what it should look like if all of the different programs and systems were still in place. That is, if clubs were still training right now to see it, because there are many girls that want to play volleyball. Like last year, for instance, was the first time Crystal and I, who you will meet soon, both of us came
mhm.
together and we were like, we want to give back to the community of volleyball in Trinidad and Tobago. The experiences that we have had and the opportunities and just doors that have opened for us through this sport is something that we don't just want for ourselves, we want so many other young girls to be able to experience. And so we decided to have a camp. We had a conference, a 2-day conference, and then we had a volleyball camp thereafter for 1 week. And from there, so many girls were just like, oh my gosh, we want to play volleyball. And the girls were able to do that virtually. Actually, we gave them balls and we taught them skills virtually. That's just because, again, due to the pandemic, the volleyball facilities are currently closed and only national athletes are allowed to train, and those are only national athletes that are prepared for a tournament.
Oh,
So
damn.
unfortunately, yeah, it's really unfortunate that recreationally people, girls can't train right now. But sorry, for that reason, we had the virtual camp, and there was just so much excitement around the sport. But at the end of it, they were like, okay, so now what next? And there was nothing for us to say. Well, okay, you can join this club and start training. So many girls want to play, but there is just no avenue for them to be able to do so right now. So as I said, ideally it would be where we would encourage them to join clubs, but as it is right now, there is no situation for them to be able to do that.
Dang.
Yeah.
I feel you got me because like I was like, okay, so like the girls like it. I was just like the girls. I was like, okay, they like it. Okay,
Yeah.
let's get them involved.
Yes.
But wait, then
Well,
there's also the pandemic. Like the pandemic has just effed a lot of stuff up.
yeah, it's really messed up, but and then I would say, being a small island again, unfortunately, it just takes so much longer for us to do certain things. And, I don't want to just like bash our country. That's not the case. The thing is, we genuinely don't have the capacity to be able to deal with like an influx of sick patients in the hospital. The hospitals are already maxed out. And, just because of that, I know that they're literally doing everything they can. They're trying to be really tight on what they allow and what they don't. Like even right now, the maximum number of people that can gather is 10. Like we're down to 10. I'm not saying that's what people adhere to. Treating people do their own thing anyway. But as it pertains to the government doing what they can, there's so many things that are still closed and a bit tight. Like we only got the beaches open about a month ago after it being closed over a year. Can you imagine living on an island and not being able to go to the beach?
No,
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine living. It literally, I could walk to the beach now in like
And
4 or 5 minutes.
and
Like,
police is like patrolling and making sure like no.
dang. And I never stopped playing volleyball. Like when the pandemic started,
Hmm.
I played volleyball until like we were still able to go into Target. Okay, and like literally, I bought a net from Target because like everywhere was taking too long and nothing was shipping, but they were going to big stores like Target and Walmart and places like that. So I literally had a group of maybe like 8 friends, and we just played grass fours with that cheap net from Target that if you hit into it, it like ricochets and flies even further.
But
I was so
honestly, I
shy.
know, okay, so you're saying like, the cheap net from Target, but just for me, hearing that accessibility is just
Mhm.
wild because if you want to play volleyball, like there is no store that you can just walk into and buy a volleyball net. Like in a situation like that, you have to order a volleyball just because it's not as popular a sport as yet as it can be and as it should because there were times that we would have like again this is in the past like years ago we would have tournaments hosted in Trinidad and Tobago and the stands weren't packed out but every person that attended the games were like oh my gosh I didn't know volleyball was so much fun and I'm like I've been staying. We're like it's so exciting. I mean, the fact that we're wearing like shorts rolling around the ground is, there's that element to it as well. But the game in itself is really exciting and captivating. We just needed the exposure and the continuity of hosting tournaments in Trinidad. But then again, due to this panorama or whatever, stuff like if we were able to continue in that direction, just being able to run into the store and get a volleyball net, we would have that accessibility because there would already be a demand for it. You can buy a volleyball and that's fine, but like volleyball shoes, volleyball nets, those things that you would probably have to order online. So
Dang. And then I'm sure it takes an extended amount of time to get to you.
and we're not even talking about customs and having to
Okay.
pay that ghetto. It's the ghetto.
Yo, I tried to like back in last year, it's so crazy to me. The like 2020, 2021, and 2022 so far have just felt like one elongated strip of
Everywhere.
time.
Everywhere. It's like everything has merged, yeah.
Because I was like, oh, like a couple months ago, and I was like, wait.
Of
Like,
a whole
that's
year.
right, this is a whole new year now.
Yes, I know. I feel like there was 2019 and now we're in 2022. And I don't know what happened in between. Literally.
A lot of people just foolishness. And
Yeah.
it's so weird to me too that like even in the US, like in the States, every state has their own like mandate. Like for here, like we don't have to wear a mask when we go out and about.
Okay.
We don't like, but Florida is a crazy place.
Yeah.
Everything you hear about Florida is just
It's true.
it is. I love the people down here, but yeah, it's wild. Like and even like the animals too. I'll be like, what is going on down here? Even the animals acting up.
Everybody acting out.
I mean, times 10, like maxing it out.
No,
But
like,
I couldn't.
mhm.
Go ahead, boo boo. Go ahead.
No, no, I was just gonna say in Trinidad it's completely different because we have to be masked up at all times. Like you can't go anywhere without a mask. And even in the car, like even when you're driving in the car, you have to wear a mask. So
Even
yeah.
in your own private space.
If you're by yourself, you don't have to, but once there's another person with you, you have to be masked up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dang. And people be really pulling y'all over like, you ain't got that mask on, so that's a ticket.
Before, yes. Now they're a
Hmm.
little more lax, just a bit, but before they literally were pulling people over like for not wearing the mask and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-mm. That is
But you're
not
saying
here.
yeah, I was gonna say you're saying things are different from state to state.
Oh yeah, everything's different. Like in Florida, you can, and then even from like state to state, but county to county
Okay.
is just completely different. So I could go to, okay, for example, when the pandemic first happened, Miami-Dade County, which is like that's where all the foolishness for real be happening.
Okay.
Uh, they they had a mask mandate. Like you had to, every time you went into a building, you had to have a mask. If you, which didn't make any sense to me, like you had to wear a mask when you went into a restaurant, but
Mm-hmm.
when you sat down to eat, you
You
could
can
take
take
it
it
off.
out. That's how it is over here. That's exactly how it is.
But there's like tables all over the place. I'm like, but y'all breathing in the same air, so that doesn't make any sense. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and then like where I am in Broward County, there was like no mask mandate. Like we hadn't caught up yet, so we were just like still playing volleyball. Like we didn't care. People were still going
Hmm.
to the store. Like
Hmm.
people were coming into my restaurant where I worked at. And they would throw whole ass tantrums and like, well, I don't think I should have to wear my mask. It's my right to not wear my mask. And then like, what do you say to them? Like, people are so entitled here.
Yeah. All
So
right.
it makes me look at it in a whole new light when you're like, yo, we're not even able to just go buy a volleyball net. Like I'm sitting here like, oh, it's a cheap volleyball net. You're like, okay, but you got a volleyball net. Yes.
That's my point. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So dang, I should be thankful for sure.
I mean, you only in my situation, it's just life. Like you only realize how good you have a situation when you realize that
Hmm.
someone has it a little worse. So it's just put things into perspective.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's different in Poland, it's different in Russia, it's different in Germany and the Philippines. It's all different where you go. It's crazy
Mm-hmm.
that even amongst your own like community, even if you did have volleyball nets and everything, like you're still not able to congregate and
Yeah,
everybody meet up and
yeah.
still like hold a practice like a regular old, I don't know, Thursday afternoon or evening. That's
Mm-hmm.
still not an option for y'all. So
Yeah.
it would be really hard to have a program like even I think a national program to the caliber that it was when you were going through it in
Yeah.
today's climate of,
Yeah.
COVID and everything else.
Yeah, that's literally what it is right now. So even as like, I mean, I was injured before. Now I'm in the process of recovery and getting back in shape. I don't have a team that I can train with and just be able to get back to that high level volleyball level.
Hmm.
Just because of the pandemic and because of what's happening. I mean, also like I was mentioning, because of the lack of continuity within the sport in Trinidad right now. We don't have that team where you had before. Like before, you used to fight for your spot. You know that
Hmm.
there are like a bunch of girls behind you coming in, and you slip one time on that court, even after you got the ball, you just slipped, and somebody is ready to fight at that. But yeah, just I miss that dynamic. I really do.
That's what I was telling my girls last. Actually, we both were telling the girls last night that it's the little things that I'll be like, okay, y'all, like. because it's a developmental program. So some of these girls, they just like literally touched the volleyball for the first time 2 weeks ago. But now we have them to a point where they can just consistently pass the ball and they know what it feels like to go through the motions of passing. So we'll do all these workouts and like yesterday I was like, okay, this has been cute what we've been doing. I've been teaching you the foundations and the fundamentals because you can't do anything else without solid foundation. But now I need to add on that conditioning factor. So now I need you to start getting stronger, not only physically, mentally as well, and then as a team. So now I'm going to start to push you because now you know the basics of passing. So now I can hold you accountable for it.
Right.
Yo, it's some things just as simple as okay, we're working out, the girls are sweating. Whew, can we please go get some water? I said, yes, sis, go ahead and get your water. And then they're just like walking
Mm.
strolling to get water. And like you said, like you could slip up one time.
Yeah.
And so Kendry was telling them, look, like my coaches see effort. Okay. So when we tell you to go get water, yes, go get water, but hurry up and go get
A
water.
sense of agency. Yeah.
Yes. Like, you know what I mean? Telling you it's a dead sprint to go get water, but like just show some effort, like do a nice little jog. And
Mm-hmm.
we're telling them like, or actually she was saying that look, like she was like a coach will literally put you in just because of your effort. Like you can sit here and act like you don't want to be here if you want to, and you cannot show me effort. And it all boils down to, at least me, like respect. Like just respect the space, respect everybody that's here. So when you're here, put forth that effort, 100% all the time.
Yeah.
And she was like, you gotta want it. You gotta want it because your coach will, and you see that too, like now being an adult, being a national player. So if you ain't trying, if you not like, if this is like like, okay, it's an option, but to everybody else it's a priority,
Right.
we will see that. And you stick out like a sore thumb, and people don't want to deal with you. So
Yeah.
if that's the energy you're giving.
Yeah, like effort is definitely reflective of goals and how intrinsically motivated you are. So you can, they also, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. That person
Hmm.
has to want for themselves. They must have like what their goals are within the sport or their why as to why they keep showing up at practice. And if they aren't able to or haven't taken the time to clearly identify that for themselves, then you literally feel like you're pulling teeth, you know?
Yes.
So,
Yes, but
yeah.
thankfully, I don't have that
Yeah.
problem. Like in that first episode, everything happens for a reason. I
Hmm.
believe in life, no coincidences. So in that first episode with Coach Powell and then Coach White, remember they were talking about Coach White was saying like I don't have to bark at my kids and bark orders at them. Like
Yeah.
I coach in questions. What do you think you need to do?
Mhm.
And I took that, and immediately my that program was starting up at the exact same time that I did that episode. And so immediately I'm like, okay, I already know Gen
Yeah.
Z,
Yeah.
they ain't like us now. When
Yeah.
coach tell
Yeah.
you to do something, they gonna be like, but the YouTube and the Instagram said for me to do it another way. And
Yeah.
you told me to do it what way? So I coach in questions. And so thankfully now I'm like, why do you want to be here? Oh, I love being around the girls. I love the fact that I can kind of get away from everything else I'm doing.
Mhm.
And, or I love the passing. I love setting. I love how it all works together.
Mhm.
And they literally they make coaching so much easier,
Yeah. That's
so
nice.
much easier because they just want to be there. And then not only that, but the parents want to be there. And I've gotten it to the point where, or we've gotten it to the point where the parents, they have no questions. They just literally let us do our thing, and then afterwards they have nothing but thank yous and oh, this athlete says talks about you all the time when we get back in the house, and we're starting to build like a little family as opposed to just this is the team. Okay, parents stay outside because y'all be a little extra sometimes.
Yeah. Like,
But I get it. It's their
yeah.
kids. So
Right.
Were your parents ever those crazy uh volleyball parents?
No. Honestly, no, no. So they were supportive of the sport. They were supportive of me playing sports. But my parents, so because practice usually was so far from where we lived, and like I said, we took a bus. There was a chartered bus, but just like a whole bunch of girls on this bus to go to training and back. And so my mom would just drop me and pick me back up. There were very few times where she would come in and sit in on training because, like I said, this is just 4 hours of us like running around, cycling balls, diving, and all that. So sometimes they would come and just sit in, but like very, it was not a regular thing. They have their own lives as well, and three other children to see about. So
True.
yeah,
Hands were full.
but I am grateful to have their support, especially being in a situation where like my dad's side of the family was very heavily involved in academia, and
Okay.
so to see at age 15, yeah, I don't want to go to college. I don't want to play professional volleyball wasn't something that was just easy because I did well at school and I did have college offers, but genuinely in my heart I knew that professional volleyball was always a thing for me. I believe that it's important to find, not just passion but purpose in what you do. And it's while at 15 years old, I was so sure of what it is that I wanted to do with my life. I was like, even if I go to college, I am going to spend time, I will do well at school and all of that. But at the end of it all, whatever degree I have, I'm going to play volleyball. So
Yes.
if I have the opportunity to start my career at a young age, then it's definitely one that I want to seize. And to have the support of both of my parents to say, okay, we're going to let our little 15-year-old pick me. Pick me is what
Hmm.
I always say children and children. I say children. In Trinity, slams and Trinidad dialect. They let the 15-year-old pick me, leave the islands and go to Poland and
Uh-huh.
play. So I had their support always to be able to do what I'm doing. And if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be able to, do what I do and be essentially the woman that I am today. Because most of my life's experiences through volleyball has shaped my character, just in every element. Like I wasn't the first pick in situation. So like even going back to the situation with my head coach at the time, the Cuban guy, not only did he think I was too short, but he was like, she's not going to be anything good. This is what he
Uh-huh.
thought in his mind. But he was like, he can't just say that to me. So what he did instead was leave me on the side of the wall to just bump on the wall, set on the wall, while the rest of the teams were doing drills. So every
Hmm.
single day I would go to practice and he would say, okay, take the ball and just go and set 100 times. And I'm like, okay, I said 100 times, I'll go back and be like, all right, now bump another 300 times or something. And for the entire practice, I'm just there on the wall and I'm like doing the drills and just setting and focusing so hard on technique and then stopping every once in a while to just check out the players and see what they're doing. And I would always have this fire in me. So like, oh my gosh, one day I'm gonna get to do those drills with the big girls. You wanna
Oh
roll
my
with the big
God.
boys?
That might,
You wanna roll
you're like
back?
getting excited talking about it now. You're like, oh, I'm so
Yeah.
ready.
So that's how I was felt on the inside. And then one day he allowed me to participate in the drills. He's like, okay. He tossed the ball, and when he saw me jump to spike, he was like, she
Wait,
could
hold
she
on.
could jump. Also, she's short, but she could jump. Okay.
Uh-huh.
That was the first time that he saw me differently. I saw that okay, I can actually be something and be somebody. And then he actually intentionally included me in drills and allowed me to train with the team. But it was only years later when I finally became like an asset for my national team that he disclosed to me that the reason that he had me on the wall all that time was because he thought that if he left me there by myself, eventually I would just get tired and never come back. And I was like, he's like, if I quit, he won't have to like send me home.
Yeah, because he felt bad.
And meanwhile, in my thoughts, I was like, I genuinely believed that this was just like the route. This was just my road of passage. Like, as a young as a young child, you join the sport and everybody passed through this part where they were like sitting on the wall and then they got the
Hmm.
opportunity and they played. Meanwhile, they're like, Yeah, no. Like, we
We didn't do that.
we didn't do that. So
We
I
did that if we got in
was
trouble, but like not just because, not for the whole
yeah, exactly, exactly.
day.
So because I was just so intrinsically motivated and I had that fire and I genuinely just loved the game so much. And on top of
Hmm.
that, not only was I just doing drills, but I was always made to shag balls. So the girls did the drill and then you have to go run the balls and put it in the cart. So I was like, listen, if this is what I gotta do, if this is what I have to do, then this is what I have to do, and I will do it well. I was the best ball shagger. I actually,
Yes.
listen, I actually would like there was one other girl who was with me at the time, and we would go a competition to see how many balls we could carry at once without having to make double trips. So I got up to 7 balls, I just carried it. And it's like, we made it fun. We made it fun. Um, but no, that was just definitely like that was just my experience. That was my route. I was not always the first pick. And then even when I got to the professional level, so I'm 5'11" and a half, exactly
Hmm.
180 centimeters. Like don't forget that half. Um,
Yes.
but still in the world of volleyball, I'm considered short. Like I'm
Hmm.
average, but like I'm not the tallest player. And so when I, first went to play professional overseas, um, I know that they really wanted my teammates at the time. She was like 6'2" or 6'4" or something,
Hmm.
and she was a really good player. And they developed her, and she would start games, and I would always be in the box. And it happened like that for the entire season. And I remember very distinctly crying in my room to my mom, and I was like, they won't let me play, and I don't know why, and I just want to play and that. And every day in practice, and I'm doing my best, and then when I go to the games, I'm just clapping, and he won't give me a chance because he doesn't trust me. You know, the long,
Uh-huh.
exactly. But I knew what it was like to be the underdog, and just remembering that this was what the situation was with my national team until I fought really hard and I trained my best and I proved myself. I said, okay, if I did it before, I could do it again. And I went through the same experience of like training really hard, doing my best until eventually I remember the end of that season, we had playoff games and they would have MVP at the match. I remember one time I won it 6 times consecutively because I was like, listen, I've been holding this in all season. Y'all didn't want to let me out, but now I'm out. And y'all kind of
We here now, baby. If you stay ready, you ain't gotta what?
get
Get
ready.
ready.
Exactly. So by the time we rolled around to the second season, I was one of the starting players. So then after that, there would always be situations where I felt like I had to prove myself. And even now, coming off of a double injury, I know I'm going back into a situation where a lot of eyes are on me and they're waiting to see, okay, what happens next. This injury didn't take me out. I'm still playing a sport that I love. I'm not just going to fold, even though these obstacles have come um, at a time where I least expected it. But I still persevered. I was still, exercise resilient. I still was able to exercise resilience, and now going back into my next season, I'm like, I know you all are waiting to see what comes next.
Yes.
Popcorn, because
The curtains draw, there's one spotlight, and you're just sitting there standing in a dark auditorium. You're just like, are you ready?
are you ready? Are you ready? Listen.
You
So
said,
I
cue the
have
music,
it.
baby.
Huh?
I said, you said, cue the music, baby. Go ahead.
Yes.
It's a whole
No.
Beyonce moment. I'm living for it.
But like my last volleyball match was on November 2nd, 2019. Like
Hmm.
anyone's checking or anything, but that was the day that I tore my plantar fascia, partially tore my plantar fascia. I actually have that whole video on YouTube. Like it's literally the second point, the first point of the match. The second ball that I went to spike. The setter set me on the outside. I jumped to
Hmm.
spike. The ball came back over. She set me again, and that second time, I jumped and landed, and that was it.
Mm.
Um, you just imagine the very first point of the game. Like we didn't even get anywhere as yet. And
Right.
from there, I was doing my rehabilitation exercises, and we were going through the program. And then I had a partial torn in my meniscus on that same knee, and the doctors were like, "Okay, we need to operate." So my entire season in Germany was wiped out, and that was like one of the most difficult experiences because I went into that team and into that season so excited and just so ready. It was my first championship recruitment, and that meant I was going to play Champions League. And Champions League has just been a desire of mine since I started volleyball, like the green and yellow ball. Like I just always imagined being able to travel to different countries in that same season, just to like catching flights just to play volleyball. Like I was just always excited just to be able to participate in that on that level. And so when the entire season was wiped, like I felt like it was just snatched from beneath me, like a rug, a carpet was just pulled from under my feet. But even in the midst of that, like at the end of the season, okay, I would say even in the midst of that situation, I was like, yes, this is difficult, but how can I still give value to my team even though I'm not on the court? So I was like, okay, while I'm doing rehab and all of that, I found a passion in baking. So I would bake goods, I would bake banana bread, cupcakes, and so when my teammates would go on away games, I would stand up with them on the bus. So I was like, I'm still here to support these girls, even though I'm not able to like be there on the court and be with them physically. Or if they had bad days in training, or like they were frustrated with what was going on in the game or the team. The dynamic sometimes is just a bit off. I would be the shoulder to cry on, like, y'all can talk to me, like, I get it, I understand, and all of that. So I just was able to find ways to still be of value to them and still serve them in such a way that it was fulfilling to me, but also, I felt like it served a purpose even in that situation. And then at the end of the season, I thought that it would have renewed my contract because it was a double A. It should have been for 2 years, and they canceled the second year. And I was like, I didn't even get to do what I came here to do, and you're just gonna like cancel like that. Yeah. So at the end of I just dropped back into the end of the season when I had a conversation with my coach. I went into it really positive. I'm telling you, I was working my butt off in rehab, and we were doing really, really well. And so at the end of every professional season, you usually have a meeting with the players. The coach and players will have a meeting. And it's usually to say either they want to keep you for the following season or thank you for your service, goodbye.
Yes.
So I go into there and I'm like, all right, of course I'm like praying, like God, like really let them keep me. I really want to be here. So I sit in the meeting and he starts off by saying, I just want to say thank you for your hard work and for being in the team. And I'm like, okay, we can start on a positive note. That's good. But I'm like, okay, 2-3 minutes into this meeting and you're still saying thank you. So and then at the end of it he goes, okay, so is there anything that you would like to say? I'm like, are you done? Is there anything you would
like
like
staying or not?
Exactly. So I was like, all right, just take the bull by the horns and just ask the question. I'm going to be very direct. I was like, okay, so my contract is 1+1. Do you see a future with me in your team for next season? And he said, unfortunately, no, I don't think so. He's like, but you can ask the manager. And I'm like,
I'm not asking no manager. This is not a McDonald's visit. Girl, bye. Like,
just forget it. Like if you're the coach and whatever. But honestly, I don't fault him because I'm like, I understand that all eyes are on him as the coach, and what would they think of him if they take another player? There's the risk of re-injury, like so many different things, dynamics, especially because I had gotten injured so early in the season. I'm not yet like an asset for the team. It's not like, oh, this girl has so much history with us. She's done so much for us in the past that we really want to keep us. So, there's like the human perspective where like you're emotionally attached to the situation and you really hope for what you want. But then there's the business side where you're like, okay, you have to look at this from a business investment and perspective. And that's essentially what it is as a professional player, which is one thing that, I'm just going to segue one time to say that, I do want to be able to speak in forums where I'm able to give a holistic approach to what this life of being a professional athlete really embodies, and all of the different nuances and experiences that you have to face, that I believe that I wasn't 100% prepared for. And one of the main things as it pertains to this situation is understanding that this is a business. This is an investment. When you have sponsors, when you have money invested, they want an ROI. And if they don't have that return on their investment, then people are going to be angry. Questions are going to have to be
Yes.
answered. Somebody has to take the blame for it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, saying that to say, they were like, okay, the risk factor for us here is just too great, and we don't want to take that risk, and for that, we're going to cancel the contract. And that's just a pill that I had to swallow and say, okay, you know what? Yes, I was rejected from this team, but I am going to come back stronger. I have not been rejected from the game of volleyball. I have not been
Mm-hmm.
rejected from my purpose and contribution within this sport, and I'm going to keep going regardless. So that's just
Yes, I know the boys and girls better. Oh, y'all better listen to that part. Oh my gosh.
so that was in 2019. Like I said, as you said, like
Mm-hmm.
everything just seems like a blur. I'm like, which year was what now? So when that contract was cancelled and I came to terms with that, I accepted. I mean, first of all, I had to grieve it. You know, I had to grieve the hurt of rejection. I had to grieve the death of a dream that I thought was what I thought would have happened that didn't happen, and just allow myself to go through those feelings. And
Mm-hmm.
after I got it out of my system, I was like, okay, we've cried, but let's pick our pieces back up together. Let's, you know, reflect on what we can learn from this and just keep moving forward. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I did. I worked my butt off that entire summer in physiotherapy, strength and conditioning. And in December of 2020, I got recruited to the top team, there was the second place team at the time in Hungary.
Mm-hmm.
And Hungary was never a country that I always like to say I desired to play in Hungary. That wasn't something that was inside of me, but it was an opportunity that came,
Mm-hmm.
and one that I was very grateful for. And so when I got into that situation, they wanted reinforcement because they were so close to winning the championships. They just really wanted that extra push. So
Mm-hmm.
I felt really honored that they trusted me in that situation. I went there. I was fully healthy. They did all of the different tests like MRIs, the doctor's visit. Like there is a comprehensive examination that you go into as a professional athlete, because basically they want to make sure the toy that they purchased, for lack of better expression, isn't a faulty one, as it's going
Mm-hmm.
right back to the store, and we want a better one. Like that's literally how it honestly. And like I said, all of these things are things that like you don't necessarily understand until you're in this situation, or unless someone actually clearly explicitly explains it to you. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that even though I haven't gone to college before, but just like I could use the experience of being with the national team or playing for my club team, it's not the same dynamic where they would be extremely, how to put it, nice, for lack of better expression, when you first go into the team, because like I said, they're buying, they know what they're paying for something, and they want to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that what they paid for is what they're gonna get. So
Mm-hmm.
I had a full test, all the different examinations. I passed every test. I even was the strongest girl on the team when I went into Hungary. The strength and conditioning coach, when we did all of the different weightlifting exams or whatever, she's like, "Wow, you're the strongest girl here," and I'm like,
Thank
you
you.
know,
Thank you.
she's been lifting it.
Okay.
Thank you. Um, Unfortunately, though, you know, the way life is, you don't get to determine what happens to you. You just get to choose what you do about it. And so the very same day that they announced to the city that they recruited a new player, we had a press conference in the morning, and my very first practice with that team in the evening, I tore my ACL. And I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And it's wild because when it happened, it was so random. It literally was so random. Like when I went to the training session, that first day, the coach and I had a conversation. He was like, "Look, I know you've been traveling for a long time, and I know this is your first training session. I want you to just ease into it. Don't feel as though you have to prove yourself to your teammates or prove yourself to anybody or anything. You're a good player. I know it. You know it. Like, just take your
Okay.
time to go into it. And I honestly didn't do anything extra. Like, it was fine. But the what led up to the injury, we had the press conference. I mean, apart from jet lag, we had the press conference in the morning directly after while the press conference was going on. My team was training, and I decided to train with the strength and conditioning coach directly after training. He said, you can go ahead and train with her, or you can go home and just come to practice in the evening. But again, being the person that I am, like, you want to keep doing your best. You want to
Mm-hmm.
um, you don't want to come across as a lazy player or like, oh, she just want to take a rest and she just that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Um, so I went into that training, that strenuous training by myself, and then there was just an hour between that and the second practice, so I didn't get much rest time. And then we went into training and snap, that it just happened like that. It was so random. And I thought I was fine. The initial shock was very painful, and I cried for like 2 seconds, and then I was like, okay, wait, I think I'm okay. And I walked on it, and I was like, okay, I'm walking. I think it's fine. But that
Mm.
adrenaline is a
She
liar.
wears off.
Listen, no, but it's so disgusting because you can literally think you're fine, especially because in your mind you want to be fine, and because the
Mm-hmm.
adrenaline and like the heat, your body is warmed up and everything is still going, and you feel okay. But the following morning, I woke up in the most excruciating pain that I can
Mm.
imagine. Like, just to lift my leg off the bed, I was done. From there, I knew, okay, this is something's wrong here. And then when I did the exam, like when the doctor, before I was able to get an MRI done because the year was coming to a close,
Mm-hmm.
the doctor checked me out and he was like, yeah, her ACL feels like it's gone. And I'm like, the devil is a liar. What? No.
Right.
No, of course not. Not my ACL. It's there. You need to check properly. Like,
Girl, that's your equipment, baby girl. Check your shit.
mm, mm.
Ooh, not my body, baby. I know my body. I know my body.
Thank
I know my
you.
body. You're not gonna come in here and tell me them things because that ain't nothing but the devil.
Literally. Oh my gosh. In the interim, I was doing all the home remedies. Like, you could have called me PTCT. Like, I, as a physical therapist, Channon Thompson, I'm telling you, I was doing all the massages on my own leg. I had like this little stim machine. So I was doing
Hmm.
stims at home. I was like icing elevating all the time. I was doing like anything. Of course, I Google diagnosed myself. And according to Google, I just had a sprain and I was going to be back in 6 weeks. So, I was just doing everything I could. And then when I got the MRI, I was like,
Hmm.
oh, so that's what it is.
Well, okay. Show that to me one more time. Maybe it's the lighting. Can you change? Are there different filters you could put on it? Because I know my stuff was just right when I came in here
Really?
before. So, it was just a little swollen for real, for real. I can't bend it, but it's swollen. So, can we do another one? Let me get a second opinion because I don't trust you anyway. We don't even speak the same language. Let me just, you
I'm
know.
crying.
Hmm. And the second doctor said, "What? Okay.
All
Is there
y'all.
is is there a committee I could speak to? Because I'm really questioning license now. Like, what did y'all do for 10 years?
Gosh, stop,
Because Google
stop.
just said, huh, okay, well,
For real, because I went through the whole phase of denial, just being in denial. Like, this is not my life. Like, this can't be happening to me. Like, I had my plantar
mhm,
fascia injury. Okay, we accepted that and we came out from that. Then there's my meniscus. Okay, we accepted it, but we came through from that. Like, there's absolutely no way that I've just torn my ACL. And without even putting on a jersey, like my game jersey had been printed and everything. I didn't even get to wear the game jersey. And
yeah,
I couldn't believe that this was my new reality. And for 3 days, like I didn't talk to anybody. I was like, I don't, I can't even speak to anybody right now. I didn't even tell my family, my friends. I told no one because this couldn't be real. Like, there's no way this. I felt like my life was a movie, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, after like just grieving that situation, I was like, okay, do you still have a passion for the sport? Yes. Is there still something that you want to accomplish as it pertains to your purpose and why you feel God has put you in this situation? Yes. Like there was even a period where I tussled with God. I was like, listen to me, listen, big man. What is this and why? Like, why? I remember literally, if I could be 100% transparent, I was sitting on the toilet at the time. And I mean, I was doing nothing, but I was just sitting there and I was just like, why? Like literally asking God, why? Like, what is it? Why did this have to happen to me? Why am I going through this? Like, what is it? What is it? And even in that time of questioning, I mean, a lot of times when we ask God why, I mean, I know as cliche as it sounds, like, why not you? But if God could use anybody on this earth to do something, you know, to get, I believe that when God wants to accomplish something on this earth, he literally puts what he wants to do through us. Like he's always looking for a willing vessel. And if you say, okay, God, my life is surrendered to you, and whatever you want to do on this earth, you can do through me. Then when you don't always know what that's going to look like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it could come in so many different ways. And when he took me through this situation, what was birthed in that situation, in that whole process of me accepting it, you know, getting the operation done and just being stuck in Hungary, not able to go
Mm-hmm.
home because I got injured in December and I couldn't go home until March, April, the following season. So you're literally talking about somebody who's watching first of all, watching herself be replaced again because they need a player at the end of the day. They want someone to finish the season with. So you're watching the new player come in and take your spot. You have to move out of the apartment and relocate because the apartment that they had for you before, somebody else has to take that now. You're looking
Mm-hmm.
at your team go on to win the championships without you, like they won it regardless. And it was just so hard to look at your life from the outside, what you thought your life was gonna be or what should have been your life on the outside, and just being
Mm-hmm.
reflective of every experience and really leaning into what I felt like God was teaching me at the time. Through that whole thing, I felt like I was in a valley experience, but even in that valley, I got so much vision for what I want out of my life afterward. I'm like, this is too painful for it to not birth purpose. I've gone through way too much for something good not to come out of it. There's a scripture in Isaiah 60, verse 9, if I'm saying it correctly. It says, I will not cause you pain without breathing something new. Another version says, I will not cause you pain without causing a new nation to be born. And what was birthed in me in that season, the first thing was I was able to write my first devotional. It was a 5-day devotional, but it was the first time that I put. I love writing. I love words. I love literature. I love expressing myself in
Mm-hmm.
that form. And it was the first time that I was able to put something together where it was like a tangible tool for somebody else to read. And now, I mean, like crossing courts be the first, the first to hear it. But I'm in the process of writing my first book, and I'm
Ooh.
almost finished. God's willing, I'll be able to release it this year. But it just really embodies all of the different experiences that I would have. I would call it if I had to, you know, put a genre on it, a devotional memoir, basically, because it's my
Ooh.
experiences and all of the different things that like I touch on every element that I would have experienced, as in disappointment, rejection, just being like in a wilderness where you don't really understand what is going on or why you're experiencing what you're experiencing. But I feel like the removal of all of the things that you know was foundational to us in our lives is something that everyone can relate to, especially during this pandemic. So many people lost their jobs. In the same way that I lost my job, a lot of people lost their jobs during this pandemic. And it was, you know, money started looking funny where you didn't really know like, okay, how you're gonna organize things or like budget cuts, like all those different things that we're experiencing. Even though I'm an athlete and not everyone who's gonna read it is an athlete, there is an element in it that a lot of people, everybody can be able to relate with. Even in that situation, just being like, there's a lot that happens when you're separated, when
Mhm.
you're in isolation. It can literally either make or break you. And I really believe that it was necessary. It was painful, but it was necessary. Even as I was talking earlier of like wanting to mentor young girls, like that's also something I believe is going to happen this year, where just be able to, like, I always wanted a big sister in these sports. I always wanted, like, there's this girl from the Dominican Republic, her name is Batana de la Cruz, one of the best players in the world, in my opinion. And
Yes.
not because she is on paper the absolute best player or the best volleyballer in the world, but when I see her, I see myself. And that's one of the reasons that I agreed to be a part of this podcast and on of what we're doing here today, is because
Mhm.
when I was able to see myself in her, I felt like I could do what she's doing. Like, she looked like me, her skin was just like mine. She was not the tallest player, like in the real, her height is she's a little taller than me, but as I said, she's not the tallest. Just in
Mhm.
her in the way that she plays, I see myself, and I want other little girls to be able to see themselves in me and just do even greater things that I'm able to accomplish. But she spoke a different language, and it wasn't always easy for us to be able to connect. There were so many questions
Mhm.
that I wanted to ask her, about playing professional, just about her journey in the sport, but we weren't able to do that. And just generally, because I was one of the first girls in Trinidad and Tobago to go professional, we were basically the trailblazers. There were lots of things that I had to just figure out on my own because there was no one
Mhm.
to ask these questions to. And yes, of course, there are young girls who are going to be able to go professional and play in these different countries and all of that. Yeah, they will probably figure things out on their own. But the time frame that it would take for them to figure it out, and the experiences, and sometimes, and even some, you know, pain points that they would have to experience would just be so unnecessary if there was someone to just guide them or like advise them or just give them a heads up that would help them to avoid some pain. Of course, pain is necessary for growth and just a
Mhm.
little bit of discomfort, and I'm not going to completely eliminate that, but
Right.
helping them along the path is something that I just desire to do. Like, I'm like, all of my experiences, and we haven't even got into like losing a loved one while you're playing overseas, like the whole process of
Mm.
grief, which is another thing that so many people can relate to now, especially
Mhm.
during this panoramic where like people are literally losing loved ones within a short space of time, and they're not sure how to deal with it. We're talking about mental health, like all of my life experiences in this sport, I just want to give that to somebody. And to be able to do that in a tangible resource this year is just the start of God. I hope so many more things to come where I'm able to like give back and impact another life, just inspire, like leave footprints in someone's hearts and just give them that motivation to just keep going. I feel like if I could do it, they most definitely can do absolutely anything that they
Yes.
desire.
Yes. Wait. What's the name of your memoir? Have you picked out a name yet?
Yeah, but I know I don't want to say it yet. Yeah,
Okay.
not
Okay. That's
ready yet.
okay.
Just because
Okay.
I have it on the inside, but
Mhm.
if there's any other thing that has to change, and I don't want to say, and then it changes. So for that reason, but
Okay.
definitely I will let you know for sure what it is, and I'll keep you in the loop.
Yes.
Guys. Yeah,
Because obviously I don't. And here's the thing: I don't really like to read. I
yeah.
don't. But I'm
Mhm.
gonna read your book though because what you just said
Ah!
is it's so important. Like everything is you think just like, oh, they're a professional athlete. Oh, they're getting paid all this money and you see on Instagram and they're going all these places. But then there's that whole like, okay, yeah, we're putting on the show and it's entertaining. But
Mhm.
like at some point we got to get off the stage and at some point we become just us, not like the vision of us that you want. And so
Exactly.
for people to be able to relate to like the real stuff that happens when life does not go your way and you were training, you went from literally like being on a wall because somebody was like, eventually she'll go away
Exactly.
to, you know what, I'm gonna work this out. And then not only do I get to work it out, I'm on the same court now with people who look like me, like in my dreams are literally I'm able to touch it. Like it's not just to my back and there I can hear it. Now I can turn around and put eyes on it to now I represent my country. Now I have the position to go play in other nations and just spread my wings and live my best life
Yeah.
and then have that little setback every time and then take 2 steps forward and then you got to take 3 steps back.
Mhm.
And just like people can understand that, people can relate to it, whether it be in their jobs
Mhm.
or, people, let's say you go to school your whole entire life for one thing and then you get into your workplace and then the people treat you like crap or
Mhm.
they don't have their stuff together. And then it's like, I know I didn't do all of this
Yeah.
just to get to this moment. So it's like, well, what do I do? And most people would just be like, okay, let me try something else because this clearly just isn't for me. And
Right.
then you have the few that try it again. And then that doesn't happen. But then you have even fewer that say, hey, I'm going to try it again. And one of my favorite things about Serena Williams, I remember she did an interview and she was just talking about, like, okay, it didn't work out. You fell down. So I'm going to try again. And then I'm going to try again. And what am I going to do? I'm going to try again. And I'm going to keep freaking trying. But then at the end of it all, you look at a Serena Williams and you say, hey, 23 Grand Slam, sis. Ain't nobody done it better except for Miss Court. Miss Court, she, won't speak on her. She could, some of the things that come out of her mouth, Miss Margaret's mouth, are problematic at her age. But, you have that excellence, and then you add on the doubles titles, and then you add on the mixed doubles titles, both Grand Slams and just regular old tournaments. And the same thing could be said to you, like you went through all of that, but now look at you. You can say proudly, "Oh, I played X, Y, and Z. I've been here. I've done that. I played for my national team, and now I have a chance to put all of my feelings, all of my experiences into one place, one book, one memoir,
Yeah.
and now I can help the next person." So, like
Yeah.
you said, they don't have to, it's now a resource. So they
Yeah.
can say, oh, okay, well, if this happens to me, I don't have to go through it by myself. I
Yeah.
can read this book, or they can reach out to you even better because you are on social media
Yeah.
and they see this and they're able to be like, okay, she's approachable. How did you deal with this? Or how did you deal with that?
Yeah.
And that's all, honestly, it comes down
Yeah,
to.
I really want to highlight the human nature in an
Mhm.
athlete. You know, like before we're athletes, before anything else, we're human. And
Mhm.
like you said, people just see what's on the outside. See, oh, she's getting to travel the world. Yeah, she's getting to do this, that, and the other. But yeah, we're not talking about the fact that I miss my family. I'm like, you're leaving when you go to play professional overseas, like you're agreeing to allow your family to continue living their life and build relationships and grow, just grow without you. There's a lot that's happening on the other side. There's just so many different things that happen um, in and around this sport and in and around being a professional athlete that I don't think is disclosed, and I want to make that accessible. I made the book very palatable in that it's sectioned off into about 40 different sections that are very like short enough to read, so that when they read these experiences and what I've been through, they could be like, oh my gosh, I feel the exact same way. Like, yeah, I got injured too. Yeah, I know what it is to sit to the side of the court and literally have tears streaming down your face because you want to play. And we're not talking about, oh, I can't play today because my shoulder feels sore or like, my legs are really tired from lifting. No, I can't play because my body has failed me because I literally
Mhm.
cannot physically do what I desire to do right now. And there's nothing that I can do about it except wait and let the healing process take precedence. And even the process of healing, like as well as it sounds, I feel so honored to have been able to go through the process of breaking and healing. Like to see my body come to a point where like I can't even put pressure on my knee, I can't even stand, and then to be able to run again, it gives you such a deep appreciation for the little things. Literally, to be able to put your pants on your own without having to like prop up on your wall or like sit on a bed to do it. Like you can stand on your own 2 feet and balance your weight from one leg to the other and just put your pants on by yourself. Like you get such a deep appreciation. And perspective on life on a whole, it is so symbolic of even like life situations and other things that you will go through where emotionally you may be broken, or mentally certain things might happen, and you have to go through the process of healing and understand that one, healing is not linear, and two, yes, time does heal, but time that is spent intentionally, intentional investment in the process of time is what actually brings healing, not just waiting for things to get better. So there's just so many things that I want to make accessible just to the other person who may see, this person living a professional life. What does that actually mean? Like, what do you actually go through? I think of Clay Thompson, who he tore his ACL, he played for Golden State. He tore his ACL. I'm like, okay, brother, I feel what you're feeling. Like, I saw this video of him just sitting on the bench waiting for his name to be announced, in the lineup. And everyone was just cheering him on. And I could just see myself in that moment. I saw him, but I saw me. And I just felt like I know exactly what he feels like. Even before he played that game, the camera would catch him. And when he would just attend games and watch, the camera would catch him in certain instances. And I'm like, I know what you're thinking. I know exactly how you're feeling. And if I was able to just have a conversation with him, I would love to literally to just be able to say, oh my gosh, me too. Like, to hear him talk and be like, me too. Me too. Like, just to know that somebody else has experienced what you've experienced just makes us feel a little less alone. And that is my desire through this book. I want one other person or whoever reads it to just feel a little less alone, because isolation is truly what kills us. Like, when we feel as though we're the only person going through a situation, or we're the only person who are having these thoughts, or like, why am I the only one who feels like this, or why am I the only one who's going through this? Like, you're not alone. Like, there's so many others who are battling it with you, and that sense of community is really what I want to foster, and hope that I'm able to inspire just through this book and through sharing my life experiences as vulnerably and as authentically as possible. Because at the end of it all, after all of the accolades, after all of the championships won, I'm like, I don't want to reach the end of my life and just be like, you missed it. Like, who
Mm,
else was able to
mm,
benefit from what you've experienced? Like, I don't just want to live a life of success. I want to live a life of significance. I want somebody
mm.
to be able to look at my life and be like, oh my gosh, like, because she did it, because she kept going, I could keep going. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yes, ma'am. That's that needs to. Oh, I can't wait for this book to come out. Like, I really cannot. Like, and since I told you you seem real nurturing. I just got them vibes from you. You up here. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. But dang, so like, do you know approximately when it'll come out? Like towards the end of the year?
I'm hoping before that. I'm hoping by
Okay.
summer. I
Ooh,
really
okay.
wanted to push for my birthday, which is about March 10th, I think I said, but I know we're
Mm-hmm.
already in January and it's flying. Like, the year is flying by. But I still have to get my cover design done and organize printing and stuff like that. So just those little things just to put in place might make, I mean, everything might just take, okay, a week or 2 weeks, but when it adds up, and I think
Yeah.
that will just put us to the summer vacation. But if for whatever reason that doesn't happen, then definitely by November, December, probably at the end of the year. But I'm really just trying to also decide on what is the best timing, because I wanted to connect. The thing about injury is that I'm not the first person and I'm not going to be the last. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. And I remember when I first got injured, oh my gosh, I literally Google searched athletes that recovered from injury. I kid you not, in my Google search, because I wanted to find somebody to be able to look at and be like, okay, if they did it, I could do it. Like, the
Mm-hmm.
injury did not like overcome them. They didn't just fold. They didn't just throw in the towel after the injury. And even though an ACL is a serious injury to recover from, there's so many other complications that happen when people tear the ACL, like mine was just a simple ACL tear. I didn't have any meniscus
Okay.
damage or any other things that happen around, but so many other things could happen, in and around those injuries. And it happens during the season, and volleyball seasons will continue. Saying that to say, I want to be able to, in the same way that I found somebody that I was just Google searching people, random people to talk to,
Hmm.
or to find. I want to have my book ready for that unfortunate situation when the next person gets injured, because the next person it will happen. That's just how
Hmm.
life is. So I'm hoping, I'm saying that to say, and I'm trying to find which is the best time of the year to release it that would really hit home. Which again may
Yeah.
be a challenge. I'll probably look at the volleyball calendar with the different seasons. I know that this time of the year, as in December to January, is a transfer window for European teams, and it's also the window for some Asian teams to recruit for their season that begins in January, in
Okay.
this time. But this is a period why I say the transfer window opens, because a lot of players get injured, and this is the window that opens up for reinforcements, for replacements, for stuff like that. It's wild, and again, my life just came full circle in that I was a player to replace a girl who got injured in France. When I played there for the second time, I went in as reinforcements in January because a girl tore her ACL. And
Mm.
then it was wild because a girl came in to replace me. It's just how life is. Like, you never know when it's gonna be your turn. One day you're at the top, and then the wheel turns and you're at the bottom. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I'll just kind of figure out with the volleyball calendar when it may be the best time to release it. It's also just a strange thing because anybody could get injured literally at any time. So also probably when I feel like the release from God, and I think it's ready as possible, I put it out there. I am hoping to be able to do at least a pre-launch
Okay.
on my birthday in March, able to say, okay, this is what I have to share it with the world, because it's something that I've been working on all year, and just to be able to
Yeah.
say, okay, guys, so ta-da,
This is what
and
I
just
did.
yeah, just to have pre-orders to be accessible and stuff like that. I'm hoping to at least have that aspect of it by March. So
Okay.
we'll see. Still perfect girl, but that's the goal.
Yes, well, it's gonna happen. I mean, we already know it's gonna. I mean, it's almost done, and time has like slowed down. The one thing that COVID I can say I'm thankful for is that it kind of life. The years seem like they're just all blended together, but I really had the time to focus on myself and really plant some things, and now I'm watching them just grow and just like really work on myself and just better myself. So,
Yeah.
one last question. Do you ever see yourself with all that you bring to the table, both for a player's mental game, for the physical game, spiritually, the whole complete package, and your love for the game? Do you ever see yourself being in a coaching position like for your national team and like really starting that up and just like being able to pour all of that knowledge and that nurturing love into the next
Mhm.
generation?
Um, for my national team, no. And I don't just mean for my national team specifically. I would say like in a volleyball coaching position, no. I don't see that for
Okay.
myself. Um, in a coaching capacity, yes, but more so, I think of myself as being the person that helps you win in the game outside the court. So you're gonna
Mm,
have volleyball coaches, yes. You're gonna have strength and conditioning coaches. You're gonna have even mental coaches as it pertains specifically to psychology. But
mhm.
because I've had so many different experiences and been able to learn so many things, I do want to coach, but in a different capacity, in a probably I wouldn't say taboo for it to sound so harsh, but just in a different capacity. Yeah.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you don't see yourself in like any avenue that's already made,
Yeah.
there's no wrong in you creating your own avenue. Like,
Yeah.
you do whatever you want. Why
Yeah.
not? It's your life, like you said earlier. Like, go live your life. Like, you want to sit here and live your life and know that okay, it didn't work out, or do you want to live your like, or you just I don't know, the opposite of what I just said. Because I'm confusing myself.
Yeah, no, I have so much passion to speak life into people, especially those who, like I said, who look like me, those who have the same desire to do what I do, or just to follow my path, or walk a similar path. Or I just mean as it pertains to the sport in itself. Like they want to go pro, they want to play volleyball at a high level, they want to play high level sport. Like I just have so much passion to be able to pour into them and just really prepare them as much as possible to be able to navigate this thing like a pro.
Would that be like an agent? But kinda? No.
Uh, no,
No, that's too
maybe,
much. I
yeah,
was like,
maybe coach, like a like sport coach. I don't know what is going to be titled.
I don't
Oh God,
know.
my batch is going
You
to die. No,
Oh no,
God.
that's good. Um, so actually, we've been on here for like an hour and 45 minutes.
No.
So I had a wonderful time. Hopefully you did as well.
I really did. Oh my gosh, so many laughs. So many laughs. Thank you so
Um,
much for having me.
no, no problem. Anytime. We'll have to do this again when you do your book launch, or maybe we can go live on Instagram or something. I don't
Yeah.
know. We can do that too,
Exciting.
because I want to talk to you about your hair journey. I want to talk about like all that stuff. Your YouTube
Yeah.
channel.
I'm here
Yes.
for all of the things, all of the social media things, the Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We can always chat it up.
Yes. Oh, I got a new friend. I'm looking over like I got a new friend, y'all. Ain't nobody there but like some boxes and a longboard and some shoes. So, you have a wonderful day, and I'll be chatting with you.
For sure. Thank you so much,
All
you
right, boo
too.
boo. No problem. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.